This video is a follow-on from the previous video in the playlist. We're going to have a look at another example of backward indexing across a Python string. And we're going to start off by looking at the Python range function. In particular, this example here, where x is assigned the range, and in brackets you can see we've got -1, -12, and -1. And of course they are the start, stop, and step parameters to the range function. Now, when we map this onto the following schematic diagram, we actually take these numbers into the function and we get this out of the range function. And you can see here that it starts at -1 because the start value you can see here is -1. And of course you can see it goes to -2 because the step is -1. And of course -1 -1 gives us -2. Consequently, if the step is -1, -2 -1 gives -3. And we can see we go all the way down to -11. Now we don't go any further than the -11 because the stop value is -12. So we don't go any further than the -11 because we don't get as far as the -12. Remember, you always stop before you get to the stop value. Let's consider the following computer program. Here you can see welcome is assigned hello world, and that's going to bind the identifier welcome to an instance of the string class, and that instance, i.e. that object, is going to hold the value hello world. And of course we can show that value here. So this is the value that would appear inside the object that's an instance of a string class. Now the next line obviously will print this hello world out to the screen. And then of course we come to this here, which is an iteration construct. And what this is going to do, it is actually going to execute this print statement a number of times. And those times will be dictated by this, and in particular the range function here, which we will look at in a moment. But quickly looking at the print statement, a few videos back we looked at this, and what we must remember, this is end is assigned an empty string, and if you remember, it suppresses the line feed. So the print statement will output characters on the same line. Of course, getting back to look at the string, we can see that in Python it's possible to backward index it, which means we start here at the end of the string with -1 and we move in this direction, and you can see we go more negative until we get up to the -11. Now if we look at this iteration here, we can see in this position we have I. Now that I is going to be altered every time we go round the iteration loop. And of course we use the I here inside this particular identifier. And of course if this identifier here had in this position -1, then it would be pointing to this entry in the string, this character in the string. Now we make I change by the fact that we use this range function here. And if you have a look, this is the start value. So that means that the first time we go into the loop, in fact, we will be pointing to this -1 here. And if we look now here, we can see we're finding the length of the string welcome, which if you look here, you can see it's 11 long. And then I'm adding 1 to it, and then I'm multiplying it by -1. And of course, that will give me -12. Now that's the stop value. And if you look at the string, you can see that the index here is -11. So if you imagine going in this direction, you would get to -12. But of course, that's the stop value. So if we come in this direction when we're indexing over the string, it'll stop here. This is the last one it'll gain access to. In other words, it won't go as far as the -12 because this lot is -12. So you can see that we get this arithmetic progression out here. So let's have a look at the runtime for this particular program, and we can see it's here. So when this line executes, it prints hello world to the screen. Then we come on to this iteration construct, and when we enter the iteration construct, we look at the value of I, and of course what it's going to do, it's going to pick up the first value that's being produced by the range function here. And of course, if we come down here, we can see that's -1. So when we come onto this line, this is going to print welcome -1. And you can see that it goes to this index, picks up the D, and places that in this position. We then find ourselves going round the loop again, and on this occasion, I is going to be a different value, which we can see is -2. So when we come onto this line, this will be welcome square brackets -2, which points to this index. It picks up the L and it places that here. And then, of course, we go round the loop again, and on this occasion, I is going to pick up -3. And, of course, when we print welcome square brackets -3, we're picking up this index, we pick up this R, and we put it here. And, of course, it's now going to go round the loop a number of times, and if you look here, it actually prints hello world backwards. The number of times it goes round the loop was dictated by this range function here. Check out the supporting website for these videos, and also consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and get an automatic update every time I upload a new video. Also consider subscribing to the Google Plus Circle that relates to these videos.